heavens above, and I believe in truth. I believe in the love we have, because I believe in you. So tell me, do you feel the way that I feel? Then tell me, would you give what I'm willing to give? And I believe in honesty, and I believe it's true, and I believe if you set it free, it will come back to you. And I believe that things were meant to really be, and I believe in the love we have, because I believe in you.
Okay, welcome to iCureCancer.com. This is Ian Jacklin. I want to say hi to my producer, JJ, today. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking.
That's good. What's the good word of today, man?
Let's see. What's the good word today, Ian? Today the good word is hemp. The good Father gave us everything we need in one plant for a healthy mind, a healthy body, a healthy environment, and hemp is it. Cannabis cures cancer. Thanks for letting me say that.
Right on, brother. Good way to start the show, too. And Cynthia, are you there today, darling?
Yeah, I am. Hi.
Hi, Cynthia. How you doing today?
Good. I know that I was just wondering, I didn't know. I know our guest has to leave a little bit early. I don't know if she's familiar with my story, Ian, because they're pretty similar. Did you tell her about me?
No, we haven't even I don't even know her story yet. It was just a last minute thing. So that's kind of what we're about to find out. And then, yeah, she's got to leave a little early. So you and I can sort of finish the program the last 15, 20 minutes or whatever it takes. But I wanted to get her in. Yeah.
Do you want to tell her just a quick little something about how we started on this journey so she knows?
Oh yeah, I definitely will. We're talking about Linda Christina Beauregard.
That's good.
Is that, I got it? Okay. How are you, Linda?
Right. Yeah.
Hi, Linda. Yeah. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Cynthia. Thank you so much to all of you for having me. Spread the good word.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to find you because I forget, like Cynthia's my ace in the hole and I talk to her all the time. She's the one that's cured herself of cancer, so she can easily go into it. That's how we met. Long story short, we were doing a play together in Los Angeles 17 years ago and I overheard her telling her friend she cured herself of terminal cancer. And I said, whoa, you can't cure yourself of cancer. Otherwise we would all know about it. Why are you lying? Is my childhood instinct of questionnaire, what's going on? And it turned out she wasn't lying. She was telling the truth. And it turns out that we don't live in Kansas anymore, Toto. I didn't know that. I thought our leaders were like me, honorable and wanted the best for our people. And lo and behold, that's not the case. It's all about money for our leaders.
Yeah, I want to hand it to Ian because he was really magnificent because it was awesome because he was such a non-believer. He really argued me to the ground, but because of his inquisitive nature and his purity of soul, we'll say, he followed me because this was before any kind of internet. So he followed me to every healer, every hands-on healer, every physicist, every microscopist, every kinesiologist, just about, finding this information out as I had, the previous year, following the trail and made a 180, total turnaround and then creates this empire called iCureCancer.com. So really hats off to Ian and his openness of mind and heart to be able to accept new information that he was taught his entire life didn't exist.
Yeah. Well, and I was just so blown away that I didn't know human beings were that existed that could lie, steal, and cheat like to that extent. You know, I understand if your girlfriend says, do I look fat in these pants? You don't say yes. but, you know, in general, if it comes to people's lives, you don't lie, okay? Especially if you're a doctor and you've got a piece of paper on the wall and you wear a white coat. But as it turns out, unfortunately, they don't even know. They're ignorant. They have, the oncologists of today are so smart. They're kind of stupid because they didn't realize that they should maybe think outside the box. Like, who's teaching them? Who's teaching them? And it turned out the pharmaceuticals are teaching them. It's the fox guarding the hen house, folks. So anyway, it's a true pleasure to have you on here. Linda, please tell us your story, because you're a fresh one and I can't wait to hear it.
Well, I don't know a whole lot about what Cynthia's cancer was, but mine was breast cancer, and it was about 9 years ago. It was infiltrating ductal carcinoma, and with that initial diagnosis, I was, of course, like most people, scared to death. And at the time, you know, I was living a very busy life. I was working 60 hours a week. I had a family. I had a husband, and you know, I was doing what I thought was following a path to a healthy diet and going through all the things that I, you know, should have done to stay healthy. But lo and behold, the cancer diagnosis came up in my left breast. And so I had an initial biopsy and a tumor removal that showed that I did in fact have infiltrating ductal carcinoma. And at that point, I had told the surgeon, even before the biopsy, I said, just take them both off. I said, you know, take them. I don't want them. You know, if they're full of disease, I don't want my breasts anymore. And she said, oh, that's too premature. We'll wait. So, in any case, once we found out that it in fact was cancer, I was referred, of course, to an oncologist, and the surgeon wanted to go back in and take more cancer cells, more tissue, and more lymph nodes in order to determine whether or not, you know, what stage I was at, because the tumor was about the size, a little bigger than a dime, and I didn't get clean margins at the end of my tissue, so they wanted to do more surgery. And before that happened, it was a month after the initial biopsy had occurred that I was scheduled for that, and in between times, my sister had reminded me of a book we had both read several years prior to that called The Cancer Battle Plan, which was about a woman who had been misdiagnosed with breast cancer, wound up having cancer tumors all over her body, a year's worth of chemotherapy, radiation, bone marrow transplants, blood transfusions, only to find out that she was sent home to die because all of these things, of course, just poisoned her body and burned her body to almost death. And so the doctor said after a year of treatment, you know, go home and you know, we can't do any more for you, and gave her about 5 to 8 weeks to live. Well, her and her husband refused to give up, and they sought out a nutritionist, which put her on a program of cleansing, detoxification, supplementing, the immune system to rebuild the immune system. And she actually lived for another 8 or 9 years, only to die that many years later, but she didn't die from the cancer. In fact, when she died, they didn't know what she died from. They had to do an autopsy and discovered that her liver had been poisoned by all of the blood transfusions she had had when they were doing the bone marrow transplants. So here's another case of somebody dying from the actual, you know, presumably the cure that the standard medical profession gives you for trying to treat certain diseases instead of the actual disease itself. So, you know, the treatment is what caused her death ultimately. Right. During that time when she had recovered, her and her husband became so infatuated with this program that here she was knocking on death's door, and she was able to recover and live a very healthy life for a long time. And so they opened up a facility in Colorado Springs, Colorado, called Health Quarters Ministries, where they ministered to people who were fighting all kinds of diseases. It isn't just cancer. When your immune system, you know, falls down, you know, anything can happen. It can be heart disease. It can be cancer. It can be diabetes. It can be all kinds of things. Yeah. So they opened this facility in Colorado Springs, which ultimately I found out about through all of my research and their book. And And so I went out to Colorado and underwent the same program that she had gone through several years earlier. So that's kind of if I'm talking too much, just let me know. Jump in anytime with questions.
No, you're doing a fabulous job. You're doing a fabulous job. So how long from diagnosis to complete cell recovery, how long did that take? How many months?
Oh God, just about 6. It
Yeah,
wasn't
me
long.
too.
Yeah,
Me
just
too.
about 6 months.
And can you tell us? I'm sorry, Ian.
I was just I'm dying to hear what's the actual protocol, like alkaline
That was my
diet,
question, too.
cannabis, hemp.
Well, yeah, it was
Cannabis hemp oil,
actually there was no cannabis involved, but again, not that wouldn't have been a good thing to follow at the time, but this particular protocol that had worked for this woman was primarily 4 things. It was eating primarily an alkaline diet, which was 80% raw food, primarily plant-based as well. There was some, organic chicken and wild salmon or whatever allowed in the diet if you felt like you needed meat. I didn't. I still don't. I don't feel good when I eat meat, so I try to stay away from it. But so it was primarily an alkaline diet, detoxing your body, finding a level of stress in your life that is tolerable and not something that causes you to have sleepless nights and wakeless days, because you just can't burn the candle at both ends, and stress alone will create disease on its own, not to mention all the other things that contribute to disease, like, the bad diets that we have, the standard American diet. And the 4th thing is supplementing your immune system, taking, organic whole food vitamins and mineral supplements to help rebuild your body and your immune system to a state that has, where it can actually fight off, free radicals and cancer cells and, bring you back to a state of health. So I did that, for 6 months. Actually, I did it for a year. I underwent the protocol for a whole year and have maintained an incredible state of health ever since, and it's 9 years later. So I wrote this book called I Gave Myself Cancer, I Can Take It Away. Alternatives Brought Me Back to Life, and had it published last year because I was angry and I was upset with the medical profession that, my oncologist didn't know about this, and when I told him what I was doing, he kind of like, it was a telephone call, and I could almost see him, throw his hands up in the air and say, oh, well, that's all I know. And the surgeon tried to get me to go in and have, more surgery. And, she said, oh, you understand what you're doing? And I said, yeah. And by that time, in just a short, 1 month from the initial surgery to the time when I was supposed to have the second surgery, I had gone through dozens of books and articles on the internet, and breastcancer.org became one of my favorite websites. And I kept reading testimonial upon testimonial upon testimonial from people who had recovered from, major diseases, not just cancer, stage 4 cancers, heart disease that was, ready to put people out. Yeah. Yet they had recovered using a plant-based diet and juicing and an alkaline diet and, cleaning up your body. And I'm like, my God, if these people can do this, they're no different than I am. I can do it too.
That's so important, Linda. That's so important. That's, that's actually what I call, because, I say the way I healed myself was mind, body, and spirit. And a big part of the mind was, you touched on, our journeys are so similar, Linda.
It is. They really are. It was, I wanted to say real quick, oh my God, like when Cynthia went through this, we didn't even know what an alkaline diet was. And it's just so wonderful. Isn't it, Cynthia, to hear her tell her story that's very similar to yours? Because Cynthia had terminal cervical cancer, and she had it out of her system in about 8 months too, where she was given a year or 2 to live had she done the full chemo radiation surgery. But she was still going to die, so she said, screw it, and then basically was healthy, and I believe it was 8 months, right, Cynthia?
Yeah, total cell recovery. And it wasn't cervical cancer. Back then, that's where it was first discovered, but by the time we got to biopsies, it had already made it into some lymph nodes as well. So, back then they had different names, and I don't think I ever heard, that was 17 years ago, I don't think I'd ever heard the phrase, first I had never heard the phrase alkaline diet, and Linda touched on what I did. Back then we called it cleansing the cells, And I had never heard anything about a stage 3, stage 4, anything like that. Right. That wasn't talked about, or I didn't hear it during that time. So, but she also touched on such an important part that I always forget because it's a little bit negative and it's just not part of my universe anymore, but it's important for those who are trying to heal themselves with alternative medicine. I too, my doctors, and I had the top oncologists all lined up there, as I say, in Beverly Hills on Beverly Drive, or supposedly Rhodes Scholars, et cetera, et cetera. And one of them actually was like bullying me because I said I wanted to treat myself alternative, and flat out said to me, you know, did you go to Harvard or did I? And I was just, I was just like, what? But it was really good. I was in neutral, studying with the Essenes, learning what going to neutral means. So what was interesting, what went through my mind is like, okay, now he's getting defensive. And when someone starts getting defensive, the first question you want to ask is, what are they defending? Somewhere in his consciousness, his broader perspective, whatever you want to say, that doctor knew that there was error on his part, or what was perceived error. And so he began, you know, to defend it. Then I went to another one who said he had 1 foot in Western and 1 foot in Eastern, and he did study some Eastern medicine, but he, you know, said to me, I understand what you're trying to do. And all of my patients who have your kind of cancer, who tried to treat it your way, died. And wanted me to sign a piece of paper so my family wouldn't go after him for malpractice after I died. I mean, it was taken that far. So I'm going on too long here. I'm just wanting to remind everyone that this kind of resistance may come up. So much of it is these doctors don't want to be wrong. One Western medicine doctor also, you know, I got to take my hat off to him because he even said, he goes, I think some of my colleagues would rather have their patients die than be wrong. And so that's a big factor in it. It's really important when you're scared to death trying to heal yourself that way. And so I'm so glad you, once again, Linda, touched on that point. And I love that you touched on the point. I know this is controversial, but for my money, the supplements really did it because I went on what I believe is the best supplement program out there. And that I got all my nutritional needs through those supplements because I was even on a stricter diet. I mean, I could almost eat nothing. You know, all juicing, and I could have some yams, and I could have corn, and there was like 4 different foods I could eat, but that was it. It was all juicing. So I thought, for me, the supplement was a major, major, major part of my recovery as well. And it's fascinating. Our stories are so similar, Linda.
Wow.
Yeah, and just if I can kind of segue, because I want to ask the same question about the supplements, but again, and I almost want to say, do you know who Dr. Bernardo is? Have you ever heard of him? He was my mentor, and you sound like you studied with him almost.
No, I don't know who he is. There's so many people out there, and more keep coming across our awareness every day, but.
Yeah, thank God too. I mean, like I said, back in the day, Cynthia and I didn't know that it was called alkaline diet, and now everybody knows what it is, you know, so we have come a long way. What were your supplements, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh my God. You know, I was doing self-care. Once I left, health quarters in Colorado Springs, they had put me on flax oil, garlic. I was taking some vitamin C. I was taking a thyroid booster because my thyroid indicated it was slow, and all these things were done through, you know, as you had mentioned, kinesiology, biofeedback, and muscle response testing. So, and then I started doing a whole lot of reading on my own, and then I started taking turmeric, and I was drinking a lot of green tea. Oh my God, I bet I was taking 20 different supplements a day, 3 times a day, to help rebuild my immune system. Yeah. So, but a lot of it was more self-diagnosis after a while because I just became an incessant reader. And the more I read about, you know, from doctors whose stories, medical doctors who had, you know, turned the corner at that point, like Dr. Russell Blaylock, and the book he had written on excitotoxins, The Taste That Kills, he just had listed a whole bunch of wonderful supplements in his book, and I'm like, okay, now I'm going to take those, and nothing, thank God, seemed to ever conflict with anything that I was taking because I would call, you know, once I left health quarters, I could call them and do a consult over the phone, and they were very helpful in, you know, helping me to continue to go forward during that first 1 year period, but But after that, I was like, man, this is a way to live. I was so healthy. I felt so good. I had all kinds of energy I never knew I had before. I was sleeping better. I wasn't drinking any alcohol. I never did any street drugs or anything like that. But, I just I had recovered to such an amazing state of health that even today, I'm just healthier than a lot of people that I know. So I'm very, very grateful that I was actually spiritually guided to go in this direction. So, that's another part as well.
Now, I'm Linda, sorry. I just want to ask, because I may have missed something. You had no surgery?
I initially had a biopsy and the tumor was removed. So they did they removed the tumor, they did a biopsy, and they took a couple of really big chunks of breast tissue, which left me a 34B on the left breast and still a 34C on the right.
Oh, Lord.
Okay. That's the one part I was missing in my head. Like, how did she get rid of the tumor part? Did she use Bloodroot to draw it out, or did she get it cut out? And so you got it cut out, thank God you went on to the alternative protocol right after that, because you would have gotten cancer from that biopsy. If you're, ladies and gentlemen out there, if you haven't heard this one yet.
She could have.
Yeah. Right. If you cut out cancer, it's going to be in your bloodstream and settle somewhere else. Burton Goldberg speaks about this on my YouTube video. If you Google the biopsies, no biopsies in Burton Goldberg, my video will come up. Just FYI, folks, a lot of people don't know that. They'll go and get the biopsy done, and then 5 years down the line, they got cancer somewhere else, and they're like, how'd that happen? Well, that's how, most likely from the biopsies. People.
Also, I was just curious, Linda, did you go, as you were, starting to heal yourself in the beginning, with the juicing and everything, did you go through any kind of a detox? I'm just curious because I went through the worst detox ever. I mean, I was a sugaraholic. Like, I really like those hard candies, like a Jolly Roger and all that stuff. And so I was constantly, with the sugar, and that had to go. And so I was detoxing off of toxins, but sugar as well. Just the interesting thing that I completely lost my sweet tooth after that detox. And that's 17 years ago. I don't care for sweets whatsoever. But I just went through a horrible detox, and I remember there was a couple of times when I was like, oh my God, I kept saying I'm sick, and they're like, nope, it's a detox, you're in a detox. And I was just like, one time I remember thinking, I think I'd rather die of cancer than go through this detox. It was just awful. It was like the worst flu ever. And, but I remember the day I looked in the mirror, I was standing in my bathroom. I didn't even realize it. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel better. So I was wondering if you had any experience with a detox going through what you went through.
Absolutely. I mean, that was one of the parts of the protocol was to detox, and their protocol for detoxing was to do, a parasite cleanse, liver gallbladder flushes, coffee and water enemas, and 1 week a month there was a juice fast that we were put on, along with a shake product from Metagenics called Ultra Clear Plus. And I'm not promoting products, but that's just what it was. And that helped to provide calories as well as to cleanse the liver. So when I was out there for my visit, on the third or the fourth day, because we were doing so much juicing and we weren't eating any solid food, they had warned us, you're going to feel dizzy, you might have headaches, you might feel lethargic, you might feel, like you've got the flu, like you've got aches and pains, and certainly all of that became present just on the third day because your body's getting rid of all these toxins, they're going through your bloodstream. And the reason for the enemas and whatnot was to flush the toxins out of your intestines as quickly as possible. So we were doing, coffee water enemas twice a day and a liver gallbladder flush. We did that one time when I was there, but we were also doing a parasite cleanse along with these other things, doing, I think it was 5 or 6 capsules, from a parasite cleanse product in the morning and 5 or 6 of those at night. And, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and it's impacted fecal matter. And I could not believe that, like, on the 4th day, what came out of me.
Yeah.
And my sister was present with me. God bless, my sister was the only saving grace I had in my whole family. She supported me in my journey. Nobody else did.
Right.
But I saw this black tar stuff come out of me during one of the enemas, and I said, "You have to see this." And I said, "What?" So we literally fished it out of the toilet and poked at it. Like, no wonder I'm sick. The stuff is glued inside my intestines, and whatever nourishment I'm taking in can't get through to my bloodstream because it's all blocked up.
Hey, Linda, can I jump on that? I just have a question. Did you, because this is what I learned about the supplements, as long as we're on it, because there's very good supplements and there's supplements that are really bad for you. Did you ever take, prior to your cancer, did you take any supplements like vitamins that you would buy at the grocery store?
Oh, probably. I was never very religious about doing vitamins or supplements of any kind. My supplement was like 8 ounces of cheese before dinner.
Right. Well, the reason this is an important point that I want to bring up that I brought up before is that, and now I just saw in Ralph's, oddly enough, some very good brand labels of supplements. To my surprise, that's how far we've come. But one of the major brands that advertises all the time, it was brought to my attention, one of the most readily available, especially back 17 years ago, that's in the grocery store. The reason I ask you that is because what they are using in their supplements for iron is coal tar. So it's so interesting that you say that it looked like tar that was coming out of you, and more than likely was. And I mean the kind of coal tar that's, at the bottom of the ocean, that if, you live there at the beach. I don't know if you guys have that in Florida. We certainly do here in California, specifically in Santa Monica. I remember I sat in it and I had to throw my coat away. It's tar, that tar at the beach. They're putting that in the supplements, and listing it as iron, which possibly there's iron in it, but your body doesn't know what to do with it, so it just splatters it to the side of the intestines. And I'm just wondering if that's why I asked if you bought some from the grocery store, because that may be exactly what was coming out of you, was coal tar.
No, actually what it was is Dr. Bernard Jensen, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's was a chiropractor who did a lot of study on tissue cleansing through bowel management. And a book of the same title shows a lot of pictures of people who he had treated through colon cleansing and the things that came out of them. People who had recovered from major wounds and all kinds of eczemas and swollen feet, and people who were really obese and overweight. But from my understanding, where I feel it came from for me was when I was overeating and not processing the food quickly enough through my intestines. The food goes through your intestines and it's just like a balloon blowing up, the food's not going through properly because my immune system was so shot. So what happens is it stretches out your intestines and your colon, and eventually the inside layer of your small intestine, your large intestine, gets perforated, and then you've got this undigested, fecal matter that is going through your intestines, and it's moving into this area between the inner layer and the outer layer of your small intestine, your large intestine, and it's taking up residence there. And then as you're eating foods, if you're not properly cleansing them or cleaning them or cooking them, if you're eating cooked food, you take in parasites. And one of my doctors said, well, I think I have parasites. Can you test me? And he says, oh, you don't have parasites. You only get parasites in third world countries. I said, well, I don't believe that's the case. Would you please test me? But in any case, then the parasites move in and they're feeding off this impacted inside your gut. And so therefore your gut keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you see these men and women who are walking around with like no waist at all, and you wonder what might be being harbored in there. So that's what I think it was for me. And once I started on the parasite cleanse and the juicing, my body was starting to repair itself, and these little parasites just finally let go. And then that was like on day 4. On day 5, during another enema, I had this clump of like what looked like balled up beige rubber bands come out, and I wasn't so quick to fish that out of the toilet, but that could have been worms, it could have been tapeworms, it could have been candida, or Candida. It could have been it could have been another batch of worms. I don't know. But when I saw the visible results of what a detox did for me, I'm like, holy cow, this makes so much sense to me. No wonder I was sick. No wonder
That's in everyone, folks. This is what people don't understand. You can't just go and get some, like our word for the day is hemp. That's great, but cannabis hemp oil is going to do nothing for you. If you've got 40 pounds of fecal matter in your colon, like John Wayne had. John Wayne, when he died, he had 40 pounds of crud in him. When Cynthia and I first started hanging out, she was teaching me all about this curing cancer stuff because she had just cured herself of cancer, and she was teaching me how to be healthy. I went and got colonics done. I had a pretty healthy life. I was a pro kickboxer most of my life. The first you have to go to at least 3 sessions of colonics to get even close to cleaning your whole colon out. And that's if you were a healthy kickboxer like I was. If you're a regular person just eating crap your whole life, I can't even imagine what's in there. So you have to go and get your colon cleanse. That's your first cleanse, and then you do liver and kidney. Some people can do colon cleanse with supplements if they're a little scared to have like
Ian,
40 pounds.
If you don't mind me jumping in just for a second. The beauty, and here's the beauty of my mantra is seeded. The hemp seed with the shells on it is proven to clean your colon. It's wonderful because of the edges, the shells when they break as they travel through your intestine and your colon, they actually grab a lot of that stuff and break it up and send it through.
Yeah, that's another way. There's many ways.
And I won't say another word, but I always preface it all by saying you can have all the hemp oil or all the pure indica cannabis oil in the world. If you don't change your lifestyle, if you don't change your eating habits, it's really all for naught, right? Okay, so I'll mute back up, and I apologize for interrupting.
No, that was great, and I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people don't understand that. But it's very important to don't just, although I hate to say it because I've talked to enough medicine makers that there's enough people out there that do nothing but take the damn oil and they still get cancer free. But then as soon as they stop taking the oil, the cancer comes back. And that's the same with any part of the protocol. You got to get Dr. Bernardo, as I was saying earlier, cured more people than I knew pretty much from everybody I've studied. And he did it the way you did it, and Cynthia did it more or less. It's the alkaline diet, boosting the immune system, cleansing, detoxing, blah, blah, blah. And that's the key. Why do one thing when you can do them all? Because the candida thing and the fecal thing with I forget what all the different kinds of, I wanted to bring up, there's one product that's very good for killing all pathogens, because when you have cancer, you probably have some kind of candida or these bugs floating around in you from all the fecal matter and stuff. A good way of killing all pathogens is a product called Pure Bio.
Right.
And it's like a natural antibiotic. So anybody that has cancer, I would definitely also be taking this. Now, the interesting thing is you're only getting this from me because I'm the filmmaker guy and I meet different people. And this is actually a cleaning product for your house. It kills all pathogens. So if you want the cleanest bathroom or kitchen in the world, you use this stuff. But if you want to take an antibiotic that's natural and not going to kill all the good stuff too, this, I use this as well. I put it into my medicine cabinet. It used to be called IV7, but that went out of business, and now the original company that makes it is purebio.com. Purebio.com. So buy it as a cleaner. But I'll tell you what, whenever I get sick, I take a half ounce of it instead of antibiotics, and it kills my chest infection. And it's helped kill people, my friends, different kinds of, almost anything that you would take an antibiotic for, I would take this. And then one of my good friends who's a scientist, when he learned about the product, he said, yeah, it'd be a good thing to take a half ounce of that a day for a couple of weeks if you're trying to cleanse in general pathogens. So that's just a quick little tidbit of information from me, and you can always ask me on my iCure Cancer site for more info on that.
Well, also, I wanted to chime in about, for me, diet, supplements, and all of that was not the key in no way, shape, or form. It was the spiritual work. And in my opinion, people with the reoccurring cancer, what I've seen is it's not because they started cheating on their diet or whatnot. It's because once they started getting good prognosis, they went right back into the life that was making them, and the self-image that was made them ill in the first place. And I say it all the time, in 16 years of doing this work and assisting so many other people, the people who stay on their diet and are religious about their diet but aren't doing the spiritual work, they're either not healing as quickly or they heal and then the cancer reoccurs. One of my dear friends, we lost her because of that. Those who are cheating on their diets like crazy, but they're doing the spiritual work and they're doing the meditation that I've taught them and they're doing the reading on spirituality that I've recommended. They're cheating like crazy on their diet and they're coming back 100% and staying 100% healthy. So I'm just wondering now, Linda, if you want to tell us anything about, did you meditate or did you do some kind of spiritual work for yourself?
Oh my God, yeah. That was a very key component as well. I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but in my book I get very detailed about all of this stuff that I did. But in the morning whenever I was doing the enemas, I was either reading or I was meditating and I was visualizing every cell in my body returning to health, all the things that I was doing, the supplements, the raw food, the juicing. I was visualizing all of that creating a new and a healthier body and building my immune system. So I feel also, Cynthia, like that was very key in getting my health back and in keeping it. And like you, I also have friends, and unfortunately some family too, who had undergone similar protocols, and yet because I knew them so well, I knew what their family situations were. And without the forgiveness, without letting go of all of the anger and the hatred and the, jealousies or, not trying to control everybody else's life besides your own is an absolute worthless attempt at trying to make changes in people's lives to make them like you. Nobody can be like you, and you have to allow people to be whoever they want to be, and so you can just focus on yourself. Love of self is first and foremost. Yeah. So, and I agree with you. There's some very important people in my life who that happened with, where, they got well for a year or two, and then all of a sudden the situation comes back, and the situation came back, the cancer came back, in my opinion, because there was still this anger, there was still this pent up stress in their life. And, we all know stress really kills. I mean, that can be a real number on you going, in any lifetime. But I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, it was a divine intervention, I'll call it, that actually sort of led me down this path, because
me too.
The night before I decided the night I decided, I was exhausting research. I was up all night, I was reading, I was on the internet, I was talking to people, I was listening to people, and I was trying to put 2 and 2 together to make 4, using conventional medicine, and it just wasn't adding up. So I was laying awake one night in the middle of the night, and my eyes were like wide open at 3:00 in the morning, and I just kind of surrendered. And I said, God, please give me some kind of a sign to give me a direction. Which should I choose? And at that moment, a few minutes later, I was thinking about my mother, who was 57 and died from lung cancer. And I was 7 years younger than her at the time. And I'm like, my God, I don't want to go through what my mother went through, because she had chemotherapy and radiation and all that, and it didn't work for her. So when I was thinking of that, I get this big yellow frowning smiley face in my mind's eye. And believe it or not, the connection of, the upside down smile, the frown on the smiley face when I was thinking about my mother and chemotherapy was the trigger for me to say, don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah. And the next morning is when I woke up and I started researching some places. There was a variety of places, but Colorado was the one that spoke to me. And so that's where I ultimately went. I was raised a Roman Catholic, and oh my God. Me too. It was just, oh my God, I can't wait to meet you in Branson.
I know, I wish I was going, and I'm not, and I would love to meet you.
But.
Yeah, same story. I was raised a strict Catholic, and I was a very angry, ex-Catholic for years before I started on this journey. And what's so interesting, though, I'm going to jump over to Essene technology. I am an Essene, the Essenes who wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls. Jesus Christ was an Essene. I've been through the seminary. I'm considered to be a reverend. With the Essene technology, it's interesting what's going on in your family, Linda. Would you say or venture, if you like, all of these things you're telling me about, of course, breast cancer, no accident that it's on your left breast.
Right.
Because and your mother with the lungs, that's all fourth chakra region, which has everything to do with self-love, self-validation. Yeah, or they call it the heart chakra. Yeah. And I saw that, so much in my family, all of the constant, not just invalidating ourselves, but everybody invalidating everybody else, trying to be right. And so I was just wondering if that was possibly a program that was passed down through the generations on your side because of all of this fourth chakra upset.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It was, and unfortunately, because of all of that stuff that I had, taken in as a Roman Catholic growing up, I tried to bestow all of that stuff on my poor son, Michael, hi, Michael, if you're listening out there. And unfortunately, he got a real big, dose of it and finally decided to rebel against it when he was a senior in high school, and it broke my heart. But in any case, absolutely, there was a lot of that. It was always do for other people, and, the more you give, the more you give, the more you give, and then you realize you don't know who you are anymore.
Yes.
And when you don't even recognize who you are, you can't do anything for anybody else. So while it sounds all very selfish to a lot of people who haven't traveled into the world of, the spiritual universe and, source energy and what that really is all about, they think, oh, you talk about self-love, it's very selfish of you. And well, yes, it is selfish.
My goodness, Linda, you're sounding so much like Abraham Hicks. Is there a possibility you studied that material?
Yeah, absolutely. I just love Abraham, and I love Esther, and I did a lot of follow there. It just makes
you're preaching to the choir here. I was back in late 98. I started studying Abraham, and I've gone to the seminars and been in the hot seat a number of times, and
cool.
Yeah, actually, even better. The first time I sat before them, I was fresh out of cancer, and I told them what I had done. And they kept me in the hot seat for close to an hour. They really liked my story, and they opened my book. They wrote the opening right there. And that's back when we still had cassette tapes. I have the cassette tape right there. They wrote the opening of my book for me. It was amazing.
Oh wow, that is so cool.
It is.
You know what's funny is just the title of your book. I gave myself cancer. I can take it away.
I love it.
I mean. It's like if I didn't know you, I would say I bet that lady's in Essene, or like Cynthia was explaining what Essenes are. Christ was in Essene, basically somebody that's awake.
Yeah, I've studied a lot of Greg Braden too, and I
there you go.
On
He's
the
the man. Yeah, forget about it. Okay, so you're on the same level, and that's why you are where you are. You're a leader. You're one of the few that are out here to show people that we can do this right. And the Roman Catholic Church, no offense to the people that don't know this yet, but it's basically the Illuminati. They started it. They hid all the Jedi mind tricks. Luke Skywalker's Jedi mind tricks work, folks. If you believe it, you can do it. That's how athletes become champions. That's how I became a champion. That's how I became a movie star in the martial art movies. I had a dream, and I just kept focusing on it. I kept saying it. Words have power. Your mind has power. And that's what these ladies did, how they cured themselves of cancer. That's how I became a champion. That's how you're going to cure your cancer at home right now. So if you're listening in and you're freaking out because you found out you got cancer, we got 2 ladies on the line right now that have cured themselves of cancer. Now, you got to go, I know.
Well, I can spend a few more minutes if it's okay with you, because
absolutely.
There's one other thing I wanted to address, is, we talk about, Greg Braden and the Essenes, and the other aspect of all of this, which was kind of part of changing your lifestyle, is the belief aspect. You just, alluded to it a little bit, Ian, but I went and saw Greg Braden, over in, Boynton Beach in Florida here when he was speaking over there, a couple of years ago. And that just kind of cemented everything for me that, you have to believe that you have the power, and you have to believe that you can take responsibility for your own health and your own welfare and be more powerful with it than the medical profession. And I'm not downing the medical profession, because if I got into an accident, tomorrow and broke a limb or had needed to be put back together, bring on the drugs, bring on the surgery, do what you have to do to put me back together. But they fail miserably when it comes to diseases. And I think they're beginning to understand that, because there's so many complementary and integrative medical facilities now, coming together. And we need both parts of it. There are some people who need both parts of it. But the belief aspect is so powerful that we are part of this universe. We are part of the energy that creates worlds. And I was talking to somebody the other day who said, geez, it's hard to, I said, why is, we were always brought up and said, well, God is out there. We have to pray to a God. God is out there or up there, and he looks this way and he looks that way. And I'm like, why do we have to pray out there? Because God is not just in us, but we have the same powers as Jesus Christ did, because he said, this and more you shall do. Absolutely. And so, we're just continuing on this path, and unfortunately it's taken us all these years to begin to awaken. But as, people like you, Ian, and Cynthia, are out there, and you, James, are out there and spreading the word in these incredible ways through mass media, people like me are, taking it on a local level and just trying to get through to people, one at a time here. So I am just really pumped up about this whole thing, and I'm so glad I finally got my book out there, and, I'm looking forward to speaking in Branson, and I do a lot of speaking here. In fact, a couple of years ago when I lived in North Central Florida, I ran a club called, Eating in the Raw, and, it was basically all about, not just about raw food and how raw food can taste better than just a piece of fruit or, a green salad. But I also brought in alternative speakers that, could share with people, look, this isn't just me making this claim. There are 7 testimonials in my book of people who I met just in this little community where I used to live. A couple of them had stage 4 cancers. One woman had stage 4 colon and liver cancer, and another one had non-Hodgkin's leukemic lymphoma. He had actually been treated with chemotherapy and radiation, and the other woman did not. So both of them have come back to a state of health that has been unprecedented by, any other standards. And this one woman is now in her mid-70s. And it was 25 years ago she dragged herself into a health food store because her doctor sent her home to die. So, it's just an incredible, we have the power of plants, in our backyard. We have to eat anyway, so why not eat something that is really healthy for you and has life-sustaining capabilities, that's nutrient dense in its raw state, instead of, the cooked food, which might taste good. But, you guys, I'm sure know this. Once you cook food over 115 or 118, it's lost, most of its nutrients, if not all of its nutrients. But,
I have a question for you, Linda.
Yeah.
I'm just love to hear your point of view as, with the Abraham Hicks, certainly their meditation, but, their meditation on physical well-being and the cell intelligence and balance and its relationship with source.
Okay, what's the question?
I was wondering what your thoughts on that were.
I believe that too, and I think there's one segment in Abraham where somebody says, okay, well, why can't I eat all of this processed food and keep a healthy body? And, we have to realize that there is a physical body. We are primarily a spiritual being first and foremost, but it's in this house we call, while we're on earth, this physical body, and there still has to be some maintenance to that physical body in order to make it last for as long as we want it to last. And for each person, that's an individual choice. But yeah, absolutely. I totally believe that, we can do a lot with visualization, with the belief that, can we eat a box of rocks and think that that's not going to affect our health? I don't know. I haven't gone there. But,
right.
But yeah, I definitely believe that there's a lot that we can overcome through the power of the mind, the belief system, and visualization. They're just very, very, very incredibly powerful things that most people don't know about.
Yeah.
And they don't know about it because, they're left to their clergy or they're left to the medical profession, as it, used to be. And, now that they're becoming more integrative approaches, but, the clergy and, the medical profession, they don't think that, you can do healing, that you can heal yourself. In fact, I'm studying to become a certified energy healer. There's a couple, who are teaching a protocol that was in England, and healing is widely accepted in hospitals in England, spiritual healing in England and in various parts of Europe, and it's paid for by the insurance. So, what does that say? God, we don't want somebody coming in there laying hands on someone and, getting rid of their illnesses because the pharmaceutical companies and, the medical profession won't be able to get their share of the funding for, or their charges for services that don't do anybody any good. But
I'm curious what kind of energy healing? What's the word label for the energy healing that you're studying?
Well, the program is called Healing in America, and it is similar to Reiki, but a little bit different because it's all based on the chakra system and just bringing in, light energy into as the healer. You can do either hands-on or light touch depending on what your client wishes to receive. And you're basically you find an area in the body with, through energy and touch that might be a little resistant. The client tells you about what is, what area they're coming for a healing for, whether it's spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, or whether it's in the etheric body. So you can work on something specific that they've asked for you to work on, but at the same time, you may find other areas of the body that have blockages as well. So initially, you go through a ground.
So it's similar to what the Essenes, what we do. It's so close. It's amazing. That's why I was curious.
Cynthia, and on top of that, this couple were guided by a man in Ojai, California, who used to go to England to get treatments, and he kept saying to them every time he went, "Oh, you have to come. You have to bring this to America. You have to bring this to America." Well, several years ago, they finally were guided, spiritually guided, to actually come to America, and they were guided to Ojai, California. So those are actually the people that I take training from through their trainers who have been trained to teach people here in Southwest Florida. So
what's his name? I would love to meet him. What's his name?
Roger Ford, and his wife is Kim. She doesn't go by Ford. Kim. I can email it to you, but look up. They have a website. It's healinginamerica.com, and they're in Ojai, Ojai, California.
Oh yeah, no, I love Ojai. I've been to Ojai. That's gorgeous.
Yeah, I have.
What was the healing place in Colorado that you went to? It's still open?
Yes. It's called, Health Quarters Ministries. Quarters Ministries, and they're in Colorado Springs.
It sounds like they know what they're doing. So if I was in that neck of the woods and had the money to have somebody help cleanse me, I would go there.
Oh yeah. In fact, they get people that were going there, when I went there almost 10 years ago now, they had people that were going there like a spa just to do a week long's worth of, just cleansing.
Yeah.
And so the husband of the couple, he became a naturopathic doctor, and he took on board a number of other people who became naturopaths and had other skills. One was a master herbalist. Another one was skilled with essential oils. And, all of these things are things that Mother Nature put here on the earth for us to take advantage of and to heal ourselves when, we got sick. We don't need, stuff from the pharmaceutical industry, necessarily all the time to make us well.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and they actually wrote another book called the Cancer Battle Plan Source Book, which is, a detailed step-by-step guide for people who can't afford to go, away to get healing. They can order the book and, through, again, telephone consultations with them. They're a smaller scale than like the Hippocrates Institute here in West Palm Beach, Florida. I don't know if you're familiar with Hippocrates. Yeah. So they're a bit smaller than that, but still, an extremely good resource, really wonderful people. You know, but
and
yeah.
that's what people should do. That's what I'm going to do. If I ever can take a vacation, I would, instead of going to a place like Vegas or something like that where, yeah, they're going to have all this horrible food. I mean, I would go to an actual clinic, even though I'm not sick. It's sort of like paying the doctor to make sure you never get sick. Like, if you're going to go on a vacation, if you don't drink and do drugs anyway, why not go to a place where they got organic food and they know how to cleanse you? You know, get some of that colon cleansing out of the way while on vacation. Come back renewed, folks. That's what I would do if I was going on a vacation.
That's a true vacation, Ian. That is absolutely a true vacation, because it's also a very restful place. You know, all of these places are very restful places. They're like spas, but they go a step further in actually taking care of the physiology of our body, as opposed to just, the feel-good muscular things where you get massages and, whatnot. You're actually taking care of the inside. And are you guys familiar with the bodies, the exhibition? Are you familiar with that?
No.
You heard of that?
No.
It was and I think it may still be traveling the country, but it was an exhibition where you go in, and there were people who had donated their bodies to science, and the scientists had taken out like all the muscular sections of the body, then the skeletal sections, then the blood and all the veins and section, and then there was another body that was, and all these things were preserved in a state where you could actually see what they are. And then they showed a healthy organ compared to a diseased organ of various natures, and, all the different types of organs that can get cancer and what they look like. The program I'm going to be presenting when I get to Branson is called Choices and Changes. And my point is that when you hurt yourself outside, you see a cut, you see it bleed, you see a bruise. When you are taking drugs, or you're taking excessive alcohol, or you're smoking, or you're doing pharmaceutical drugs, or you're even eating the standard American diet and you're not yet sick, you don't physically see what these things are doing to the inside of your body. When you go to you can look it up online. There's one in Miami. I saw it in New York when it was in New York. But you can physically see what all of these structures in your body are like. It's like looking at an anatomy book, but you see the whole thing as it was in a person who was actually live at one time. And so when you see that, I say to people, you can't see what the inside looks like, what your smoking is doing, what your alcoholism is doing. You can't see what that stuff is doing until you get a critical diagnosis and you're forced to go to a doctor. But if you can see what some of these things look like by virtue of, pictures, and if you're ready to make a change, if you're ready to make new choices, you can be healthier and feel better and live longer and do more stuff. Instead of just sitting there feeling sorry for yourself and feeling like the victim. And so I'm sorry, I'm like really blabbering here.
No, but it's awesome. And you're saying what I'm feeling, and I'm sort of, I think this has been an awesome conversation. We've all sort of,
it really
so
has
on
been.
the same page. Yeah. And talk about, Greg Brennan. I mean, didn't he just pass away? I think
Greg Braden?
Didn't he somebody just passed away like him, and it may have been him. I don't want to say it, but somebody like him did, if it wasn't him anyway. But point is, God rest his soul if it was him or whoever it was like him. But point is, the guy is such a high vibrational energy in himself, and some of his speeches out there, people, if you find him on the internet, he is the one that brought out where 3 Asian doctors chanted a woman's cancerous tumor away.
Yes.
Chanted it away.
Yeah.
Oh, and now,
sure.
FYI, sorry, Cynthia. I just realized it's 2:58, and we literally get cut off in a minute and a half. So, do you have anything you want to say, real quick? Some websites and stuff for us.
Me?
Oh, yeah, right now.
I gave myself.
Okay, sorry, it's kind of. That came in quick. Anyway, we'll go to the event page, folks. Thank you, Thank you, Linda.
I believe in you. I believe in the simple things and everything you do. I believe in the heavens above, and I believe in truth. have, because I believe